Hi friends, this is Sebastian Kent and you're watching Technical Hack. Today we're going to be discussing about IP address. What is an IP address? What is a local IP address? What is an internet IP address? Many people are confused about the IP address over network. When you go into internet and find your IP in the Google, it shows you IP address which is very much different from the IP address you will find in the command prompt. So most IP address usually look like this in the screen. So what is an IP address? It is nothing but, in short, it's a internet protocol address. It used to identify number for a piece of network hardware. Having an IP address allows a device to communicate with one another. Okay, IP address, it is base network like the internet. So most IP address usually you will find like this or maybe like this type. The IP address that we commonly used in the networking is in IP version 4. So now the question is, what is that IP address used for? Why do we need IP address? What is the use of that IP address to over our network or to communicate with another computer? So in simple, an IP address provides an identity to a network device, similar to a home or a business address, supplying your specific physical location with an identifiable address. Devices on the network are differentiated from one another through IP addresses. For example, like if I'm going to send a package to my friend in another country, I have to know the exact destination. It's not enough to just put a package with his name on it through the mail, right? And I expect it to reach him without the exact address. So I must instead attach a specific address to it, which could do by looking it up in a phone book, right? So in the same general process is used when sending data over the internet. However, instead of using a phone book to look up for someone's name to find their physical addresses, your computer uses DNS server, that is domain name system server, to look up a host name to find its internet protocol address. If you have heard of IP addresses before, you may not realize that there are specific type of IP addresses. While all IP addresses are made up of numbers or letters, not all addresses are used for the same purpose. So they are used for different purposes, like they are private IP addresses, they are public IP addresses, and these public and private IP addresses may be static or dynamic. These private IP addresses are used inside a network like the one you probably run at home, or maybe school institutions or business houses. So these IP addresses are used to provide a way for your device to communicate with your router and all the other devices in your private network. Private IP addresses can be set manually or assigned automatically by your router. This private IP address is what you use in your offices to connect with one computer to another computer to transfer file, document, and some office related file that usually operate within your office or maybe your home line or in school institution. So this IP address of private IP address is static. They can be changed manually or configured manually in your devices and can use within your private network. Public IP address, on the other hand, are used on the outside of your network and are assigned by your ISP, that is your internet service provider. It's the main addresses that your house or business network use to communicate with the rest of the network device around the world. That is what we call the internet. It provides a way for the device in your home, for example, to reach your internet service provider and therefore the outside world, allowing them to do things like accessing website and communicate directly with other people's computers. But this both Private IP address and public IP addresses are each dynamic or static, which mean respectively they either change or they don't change. An IP address that is assigned by a DHCP server is a dynamic IP address. A DHCP server is used to issue unique IP addresses and automatically configure other network information. In most of your homes and small businesses, your router acts as a DHCP server. If a device does not have DHCP enabled or does not support it, then the IP address must be assigned manually, in which case the IP address is called a static IP address. So now I'm sure that you have got an idea about what is IP address and what is private, public, and static and dynamic IP address. If you have any problems or want to know more about the topic, then please do comment and subscribe and like my videos so that I will be able to bring you with all new videos regarding networking. Thank you and have a nice day.